Sundmark, and I'm part of HAYEA. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a training that I went to just this one as well, and it was in Juneau over spring break, and it was through AYEA, which is just Alaska Youth for Environmental Action. We are a branch of AYEA. And
what's MAYA?
AYEA.
AYEA?
Yeah, Alaska Youth for Environmental Action.
Okay.
And then I'm going to talk about some of the things we learned and some issues that are affecting salmon and what we can do to help make a difference. So, I'm going to go to the first slide. So, this is the Civics Summit. And you can do the next one. So at the summit, we discussed environmental issues, and like I said, mostly ones that are affecting salmon. And then after we discussed them, we got really familiar with them, and we did some research, and we got into groups, and then we met with our different legislators, and we lobbied for bills and resolutions, and told them what issues were really important to us and what we'd like to see happen. And we also did a lot of workshops about what we can do to make a difference and stuff. Salmon is really important in Alaska, especially because it's native villages and rural communities rely really heavily on salmon, and a lot of families in Alaska fish for food and for money, and there's commercial fishing.
And they're yummy?
And they're yummy, definitely. And also, just Alaska as a whole, salmon is a huge income between for the economy between commercial fishing and seafood plants and tourism. So salmon is very important in Alaska. And so at the summit, we looked at a bunch of different issues, but the main ones that I focused on and that are really affecting salmon, or could be in the future, are ocean acidification and Alaskan mining. So I'll talk a little bit about ocean acidification first. All right, so ocean acidification, in a nutshell, is when too much carbon dioxide is absorbed by the ocean, and it turns into carbonic acid, and it lowers the pH in the ocean, and the acidity increases. And there's not a lot of research that's been done. I mean, there's been some, but there's still a lot we don't know about ocean acidification, but we know that it's getting worse and worse. And go to the next one. And the acidity in the ocean has gone up 30% just since the Industrial Revolution, which leads us to believe that it's our carbon emissions and our industrialized society that's really causing this to happen. So it's really important that we do research on this and that we become aware of what we're doing to our ocean, because it affects, currently we're seeing it affecting it in organisms that are at the bottom of the food chain, like plankton, but it has been predicted, and like I said, we don't know a lot about it, so I can't know its exact effects, but it is predicted to kind of work its way up the food chain in marine animals and eventually affect salmon, which would really affect Alaska and Alaskans. So, and if trends continue, it's predicted that the acidity of the surface water will double at the end of the century, and that's really scary for especially our salmon, but for all our marine life.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you can go to the next slide, which is about mining. And we've heard a lot about, most people know a lot about how pebble mine is going to affect our salmon and our environment, and about how other mines and all this stuff. And we're going to show some videos on this, so I won't talk in too much depth about what is probably going to happen because of those. But I do want to talk a little bit about what we can do to change it, because that is something that I learned, kind of what can be most helpful in the capital to preventing them from doing it. You can go to the next slide. So the main reason protesting environmental issues in Alaska, in general, but especially this pebble mine issue, and not just pebble mine, but that's just kind of the big one right now, is because there's been a lack of state-funded research. And I know there has been a lot of research done about the effects of pebble mine, but the state doesn't believe they've done enough research to really know what the exact effects are, so that they can't make, that's why they haven't made a decision. And in one of my meetings when I was in Juneau, I met with our Representative Paul Seaton, and I asked him what he thought about this, because I've seen so many protests and so many people voicing their opinions on Pebble Mine, but as far as I knew, not a lot had really changed. So I asked him what we can do to kind of push it to the next step of not happening. And that's what he told me. He told me that research needs to be done, and apparently our government had, I'm not sure how much money, but a pretty big chunk of money set aside for researching the exact effects of Pebble Mine, but it never got done just because they couldn't decide who they wanted to hire to do the research. So Paul Seaton told me was, if I can get a lot of people to email or call or voice their opinions about how they want research to be done, then they can use the research they do to say, oh look, this will affect our salmon, this will affect our environment. It's actually a really bad idea. And then they might be able to change something, but until they do some more research, there's not a lot that the capital can do to prevent Pebble Mine from happening. And this goes the same for ocean acidification. Like I said, not a lot of research has been being done, but if we can get them to research it more, then they can really see how big of an issue it could end up being for people of Alaska and our salmon. And also, according to Paul Seaton, he's the one I met with the most. We met with lots of legislators, but since he's really local, I met with him a lot. On a lot of issues, he only gets 1 or 2 letters or emails about a lot of current issues. And I know that's probably not true with Pebble Mine, but there's a lot of things going on that people aren't really voicing their opinions about. And so there's a lot of, legislators said this, that they aren't hearing enough from their constituents, so they don't always know how to represent us. Like, ocean acidification is a perfect example, because a lot of the legislators I met with had never heard of it, or if they had, they knew very little about it, so they didn't really have an opinion on whether it was a big deal or not. But if people were to send them emails or letters simply saying, we want you to research this, because that's not even committing to, make this big change to prevent it, that's just research, then that's kind of the first step, and they don't really have a good reason not to support research, because they don't know a lot about the issue. And so, in a nutshell, I just learned that how big of a difference just a phone call or an email can make to one of our legislators about researching Pebble Mine or ocean acidification or any other issue you guys are wanting to see a difference in. So I hope that we can get a lot of people to voice their opinions and
did Paul Seaton say whether it's for or did he say an opinion?
About Pebble Mine, he was a little, politician, so he was a little unclear, but I definitely got the feeling that he was not for the idea. And ocean acidification, the resolution that we were supporting, was all it said was that the state government will recognize it as an issue and support research. And he said he was all for that, but it's only recognizing it as an issue. So it's a good step, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's for a huge change. But yeah, he was very supportive of us, and I feel like we definitely got through to a lot of people we met with. I hope guys, and we can get a lot of people to send emails and really voice their opinions so that we can be well represented.